It's October, and I'm reviewing all of the Awaken Mode tanks that I own every other day throughout the month. We've done the Lycan, and now it's time for the Revenant Panther. Much like the Lycan, most of these first couple tanks will be skinned versions of tech tree or even premium vehicles, which is definitely something to mention when picking and choosing what tank to go for or pick up from the store, right? While the Lycan had a special anti-pref matchmaker that made it stand out from its tech tree counterpart with buff stats in important areas, the same cannot be said for this Revenant. Of course, that tech tree counterpart for the Revenant Panther being the Panther. Let's begin with the gun. It's a tier 7, 75mm gun, which is the lower end of calibers at this tier, which range from stock 76mm to upgraded 85s, 90s, and even a 100mm and a few 105 and 122s. But that caliber shouldn't be overlooked because despite not being big, it has the highest standard penetration by quite a large margin for tier 7 mediums at 198 standard AP pen and flies at 945 shell speed. Even the 90mm don't come close to that, with the tier's average for mediums being around 150 to 160 millimeters of standard penetration. The 244 premium APCR penetration is also very high, with 1181 shell speed. That penetration is only rivaled by heat rounds on the likes of the 90, 100, and 122mm guns at this tier. And that's saying something. So that's a very good start to this tank with the best penetration values for its tier, especially considering its caliber. This 75mm also hits for 150 alpha damage, which again for its caliber is high considering other 75mm on tier 7 mediums hit for either 115 or 135 damage for the most part. It takes the hit to its DPM for that reason though in comparison to those other 75mm, but it's still a respectable and slightly above average 1956 base DPM with its 4.6 seconds reload time. As for its gun handling, it has a very good 0.3 base accuracy and an average 2.3 second aim time, as well as 8 degrees of gun depression. Overall, the gun on this thing is very solid, and the gun on the tech tree counterpart is almost identical except for the fact that the Revenant Panther actually has better accuracy. Again, with this tank's 0.3 accuracy, it's better than the tech tree Panther by 0.02 with that tank's 0.32 accuracy. Which sounds like an upgrade, but the tech tree also has a better accuracy during rotation as its trade-off, I suppose. And I think I know why there's that slight change in gun statistics, and that's because of the turret. The Revenant Panther has the stock Panther turret. Meanwhile, the tech tree Panther obviously gets an upgraded version that looks different and has better armor. While they both share the same hull with an 85mm upper plate, their Revenant has a flat mantlet of 110mm and a 100mm face around that, while the tech tree Panther has a 120mm face and a very strong gun mantlet. This does help quite a bit, especially against equal and lower tier tanks. The armor of the Revenant Panther is definitely less reliable when considering that. And the tech tree Panther still keeps the same 8 degrees of gun depression with the turret buff, meaning it could play better hold down. But these are big tanks, so it's kind of hard to do so. And most of your survivability comes from the HP that Panthers have. Although, in regards to HP, this is also an area where the tech tree tank is better because the Revenant Panther only has 1200 HP to the tech tree's fully upgraded 1270 HP. Also because of that turret difference, its spotting capabilities are worse than the tech tree Panther, which has 380 meters view range, and that makes it better than the Revenant's 370 meters base view range by 10. Lucky for the Revenant though, they made it 370 because the stock turret on the tech tree actually only has 350. So the Revenant isn't truly a stock turreted Panther, with at least better view range than one. But again, not better than the fully upgraded Panther. As for the camo, they are the same, and the only reason the Revenant has better base camo is because, like the Lycan, this tank is a skinned variant of a tank, and already comes pre-equipped, technically, with camo. So its 385 meter moving and 369 meter still concealment is pretty bad, as the tank is pretty big, and the Panthers are pretty much bottom of the barrel at tier 7 in terms of camo. That's why they have the higher end of HP pools to compensate. So with 370 meters view range and bad camo, it's not that great of a sneaky tank, but sniping is always still a viable strategy if you correctly use distance and bush cover that are available on many maps. Despite your size costing you camo, it doesn't cost you that much in speed. This tank does go a pretty good 55 km/h forward top speed with 700 horsepower that gives it a 16.33 power to weight ratio, which is definitely usable. It's not above 20, but it's above my threshold of decent power to weight of 15. Anything lower than that starts to feel like a heavy tank. However, this is yet another area where the tech tree counterpart has the upper hand, as it gets an upgraded engine with 870 horsepower, pushing the power to weight ratio to near 20 with 19.42. If we look at the traverse speeds though, the Revenant Panther does have better hull and turret traverse by quite a bit, with its 42 turret traverse to the Panther's 30, and the 34 hull traverse to the Panther's 28. So at least it's better at spinning when needed. Overall, the Revenant Panther does get outmatched by its tech tree counterpart, with only having better base accuracy and traverse speeds, but worse view range, turret armor, hit points, and horsepower. But regardless of the tech tree tank, it is a pretty good tank with a strong top of its class penetration gun to utilize. But of course, that's not the only reason to get the Revenant Panther. When this tank awakens once a year for the special Halloween event mode, it honestly is one of the most fun and interesting tanks to play. The maps in the event mode have many fake Revenant corpses littered throughout the map, and when you stay still in your Revenant Panther, your red glowing eyes and red belly begin to fade to look like you're also a destroyed prop on the map. This allows you to wait for someone to come by and then you have the jump on them. Not only that, but you have two different alpha damages to utilize. You have a big, hard-hitting, long reloading round, and then another faster firing low alpha round to use. So of course, you sit and wait with the big damage round loaded, and when you get into that combat scenario, you switch off to the faster firing one after hitting hard initially. It's quite a fun and unique dynamic that has always been enjoyable every year to play with. The only downside really is that there are some tells that your tank is real that I don't exactly remember right now, but keen-eyed players can sniff you out. And you're also very slow. And I would love to show you some gameplay of that, but that will have to wait for the Halloween stream I'm doing here on YouTube showcasing the tanks in the Awaken mode. And if you miss it, don't worry, the VOD will be saved in my live section. So there you have it. The Revenant Panther, again, outclassed by the tech tree tank, so if you're thinking about picking this tank up, it's probably mostly for the Awakened mode shenanigans and or collection purposes, as I think this is also one of the comic book tanks, like the Banshee, Boilermaker, British Bulldog, and Snakebite. For those that don't know that little bit of World of Tanks lore, way back in 2016, Dark Horse Comics made a series of 5 books for World of Tanks, and all the tanks I just listed were featured in those comics and brought to life in our game. It was really cool to be honest. But now it's gameplay time. Here's my loadout. I used optics, camo net, and vents. In hindsight, the camo net didn't help all too much, and you'd be better off with a gun rammer. But during my time trying to get a game for this tank, I tried sniping a bit to utilize that pen at distance and negate my armor and size, but ultimately, it didn't really help and I didn't see much use. I used my usual consumables of a premium repair kit, food rations, and a standard med kit because I'm cheap like that. And on my commander, I used my typical commander setup for medium tanks with 6th Sense, rapid loading, steady aim, running gun, snapshot, born leader, situational awareness, camo expertise, and silent driving. And here we are on Countess. We are in a mid-tier matchup, and I made sure to include the portion yet again, like the Lycan, where I show the leaderboard at the beginning so that you know there's no bots. I do my little bot check at the beginning. But this game is the highest damage I got while I played this vehicle, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't play it too much. Like I said in the Lycan review, since I'm recording or reviewing every Halloween tank, I was going through all of them in multiple play sessions over multiple weeks, and some of them were just really boring. And I have to be honest, the Kraft Panther was one of them. It's not a bad tank by any means. Like we mentioned in the review portion of the video, it has one of the best guns at tier 7 for medium tanks in terms of penetration and good DPM, 0.3 accuracy, that's very good. But it's just like a pew pew gun on a tier 7 medium. And to me, it wasn't really all that interesting, especially since, like, you're not the fastest thing in the world, you're not the slowest. Although the gun is very good, and again, in terms of penetration and accuracy and above average DPM. It's just a all-rounder type of tank in a way, especially since you don't have that extra 10 meters view range, and the camo on Panthers isn't that good. But apologies to this heavy tank. I feel really bad, but if he stopped backing up into me, I would have been able to get away from him, and then he came back. But anyway, wasn't paying attention to where I was driving. I don't want to snipe on the windmill above me because I'm a big tank. If I poke out and shoot, that's 150 damage, and then I have to sit behind that windmill until I get unspotted. And the potential to be blind fired when I poke the corner before I get spotted by firing is pretty high. So instead, I'm kind of going to brawl over here because I don't expect to get pushed, and I can utilize the corner better than I think I could sniping. And that is also why I think I should have just ran a gun rammer on this vehicle instead of camo net, because I pull forward, right? I'm going to just use the HP that I'm given and use the DPM and the gun accuracy to poke like this, and we're hitting some pretty good shots. We do bounce that, but we're going to hit it the second time, and he hits us right back. Because he hit us, though, I know I'm going to reload before him at least twice, but I don't get any of them in. And I failed to show the scoreboard at the end of this video again. And again, that's because I thought I would get better games in it. But ultimately, I just found myself getting really bored of the vehicle and just stopped trying after a bit. And again, that's not because this tank's bad or anything, and you shouldn't play it. It just wasn't my thing. This Yazi decides to bum rush our Calliope for tier 8, or well, poor tier 6 being bullied by tier 8. And we have taken 2 hits, but we're still above half our HP. We've done 1300 damage, the game's definitely not over, and now this VK101P is definitely in a wrong position for that tank. And just look at that accuracy in that DPM. 2.8 seconds while I have the food. If I had a rammer, who knows what this thing would get to. I could do the math, but I'm not going to. It's a solid gun. Like, I can't deny that. It is a solid gun as I sit there and bounce the cupola a few times. Yikes. But the gun doesn't make up for the fact that it's a big, just all-rounder of a tank. Like, we got a bounce finally, right? We got some block damage, but it was against a low-caliber gun. 85mm upper plate. You know, it sounds nice on paper, but ultimately it doesn't really help too much against equal and higher tier tanks especially. And like we said with the Tech Tree Panther, this is the stock turret. So going a hole down, you have a 110mm mantlet that's got nothing behind it. If it had something behind it, it'd be better than the upgraded turret, but it doesn't. So now we realize, like, we're kind of alone a little bit. We get the luckiest shot on the Hellcat I think I've ever seen. Although it was a bit of a good shot and a good play to begin with. These guys are just gonna come at me hopefully one by one, and with my HP and my DPM, I'm hoping to be able to win this fight. We've only done 2800 damage, which is quite a substantial amount when you're at tier 7, right? But you know, obviously we want more. We want more. I would like to break 3K. I would like to break 4K. And hopefully this T20 or this Vengeance T25 Pilot 1 skinned is gonna help me get some damage. He doesn't realize that I'm over here until he finally looks around, and well, it's a little too late for him. I realize I'm getting shot, but hey, look at that, some armor. Again, armor only against low caliber guns. We've broken that 4K mark though, and that quickly, right? It was pretty quick, but at this point we've just been rushed by too many tanks, and we don't have enough HP to survive this game. Unfortunate. I have no clue if that 70 extra HP would have let me live there, because that doesn't look to be too big of a gun on that vehicle. What we had, 152 HP when we killed us. We did 4,300 damage though, only 83 spotting, but we got 4 kills. And yeah, Sorry that there's no scoreboard. Sorry we don't even know what base XP I made or if what class of metal I got, but I just I was really bored of the vehicle. Again, not a bad tank. You're mainly gonna buy it for either the Awaken mode gameplay, or you're gonna buy it for comic book collection purposes or just general collection purposes in general. And because of that, it's a tank I'm not gonna not recommend, but it's definitely one that if you're if you have to choose between multiple different Halloween tanks, definitely this is not a priority, I would say. But with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.